A 1994 Lincoln penny rolls out of the shadows like it's hiding a past no one dares to question. A coin so common it became invisible. Until tonight. A 2020 quarter dollar follows, fresh, sharp, modern, but carrying secrets minted in a year the world stopped breathing. Then comes the 1967 Jefferson nickel, old, worn, and silent, like it's seen things metal shouldn't remember. 3 coins, 3 eras, 1 warning buried in plain sight. These aren't just pocket change, they're survivors of economic storms and forgotten moments. Every scratch tells a story nobody recorded. Every edge whispers value most people throw away. What if the smallest coin you ignore holds the loudest secret? What if history chose metal instead of paper to remember the truth? This isn't about money. It's about timing. About luck, disguised as ordinary. About the moment you realize you've been holding something powerful without knowing it. Check your pocket. Check your change. Because the next coin you touch might not be worthless. It might be waiting. The history of the 1994 Lincoln cent traces its roots back to the long tradition of the Lincoln penny series, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The design featuring the portrait of President Lincoln on the obverse was created by Victor David Brenner and has remained one of the most iconic and longest-running designs in United States coinage history. By 1994, the Lincoln cent had already been in continuous production for 85 years, representing both historical continuity and the evolution of American coin manufacturing technology. In 1994, the Lincoln cent was struck at 2 main United States mint facilities, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Both mints produced circulation strike coins, while the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins for collectors. The Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark, while the Denver coins bore a small D beneath the date on the obverse. The proof coins from San Francisco carried the E. As mint mark proof coins were struck multiple times using polished dies, giving them a mirror-like finish and sharp details intended for collectors rather than circulation. By the early 1990s, the composition of the Lincoln cent had already changed from its original bronze alloy to a copper-plated zinc core. This transition had begun in mid-1982 due to rising copper prices, and by 1994, all circulating Lincoln cents were composed of 975% zinc and 25% copper plating. The switch significantly reduced production costs, while maintaining the familiar color and appearance of the traditional penny, although it also made the coin more susceptible to corrosion and environmental damage over time. The obverse of the 1994 Lincoln cent continued to feature Brenner's portrait of Lincoln facing right with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust Liberty," and the date, 1994. The reverse depicted the Lincoln Memorial design introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, designed by Frank Gasparo. The reverse shows the grand neoclassical monument located in Washington, D.C., with the tiny figure of the statue of Lincoln visible between the columns. The inscriptions, "United States of America," "E pluribus unum," and "1 cent" surround the image. The 1994 cent does not hold major significance in terms of design changes, but it remains an important part of the ongoing Lincoln Memorial cent era, which spanned from 1959 to 2008. It represents the stability of the design and the continued popularity of the Lincoln series among collectors. During this period, the mint focused on mass production as billions of coins were needed for daily transactions. In fact, over 6 billion Lincoln cents were struck in 1994 across all mints, making it one of the most common modern coins. While most 1994 Lincoln cents are common, there are a few varieties and minting errors that draw interest from numismatists. Some examples include double-die obverses where parts of the lettering or the date appear doubled, die cracks caused by aging dies, and off-center strikes resulting from misalignment of the coin, blank in the press, Some coins have also been discovered with plating blisters or missing copper plating, exposing the zinc core beneath which can give them a unique appearance, although these are usually the result of minting issues rather than intentional variations. In terms of value circulated 1994, pennies are typically worth their face value due to the large mintage but uncirculated examples, especially those graded MS-67 or higher, can fetch premium prices among collectors. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint also hold additional value due to their quality and limited mintage. The condition of the coin and the presence of any recognized errors or varieties greatly affect collectability. The year 1994 also marks a time when the United States Mint was transitioning into more modern coin production methods. The use of computer-aided engraving and improved quality control systems helped maintain consistency in coinage during this era. The Lincoln cent continued to serve as an educational symbol, connecting the American public to the nation's history and the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln, even as society moved further into the digital age. In the broader context of American history, the Lincoln cent has always been more than just small change. It represents the principles of unity and perseverance that Lincoln himself stood for. In 1994, as in every year since 1909, the coin reminded Americans of their 16th president's leadership. During one of the most challenging periods in the nation's past, the Lincoln cent's presence in everyday life, from pocket change to childhood collections, has made it a timeless piece of Americana. By the end of the 1990s, the Lincoln Memorial Cent series was approaching its 40th anniversary, and discussions were already beginning within numismatic circles about future design updates that would eventually lead to the introduction of the Lincoln Bicentennial series in 2009. The 1994 Lincoln cent therefore stands as a symbol of stability between eras, bridging the classic copper pennies of the past and the modern commemorative designs that would follow. It remains an essential entry in the story of United States coinage, reflecting technological change, economic adaptation, and an enduring tribute to Abraham Lincoln's memory. The 1994 Lincoln cent stands as a reflection of the continued evolution of American coinage and the enduring respect for Abraham Lincoln's legacy through more than 8 decades of minting. When collectors and historians examine the 1994 cent, they see not only a common circulating coin, but also a small piece of a much larger narrative that spans art, economy, politics, and technology. The origins of the Lincoln cent date back to 1909, when the United States Mint sought to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Before 1909, U.S. coins typically featured allegorical figures such as liberty rather than real people. The introduction of Lincoln's portrait marked a revolutionary moment in American numismatic history. Victor David Brenner, a Lithuanian immigrant and talented engraver, was chosen by President Theodore Roosevelt to design the coin. Roosevelt admired Brenner's earlier work depicting Lincoln and believed his portrait captured both dignity and compassion. The obverse design remained largely unchanged since its debut. Lincoln's familiar profile continued to symbolize honesty and unity values that resonated deeply with the American public even through times of change. By 1994, this portrait had become one of the most widely recognized images on any U.S. coin. Over the decades, the cent's physical composition and reverse design evolved to reflect economic pressures and cultural milestones, but Lincoln's image remained steadfast. The reverse design, introduced in 1959, replaced the original wheat ears with the Lincoln Memorial to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Frank Gasparro, the designer, created a detailed miniature of the actual Washington, D.C. monument, which allowed even the seated statue of Lincoln to appear between the central columns. This design linked the coin directly to one of America's most visited monuments and helped strengthen the national symbolism of the penny. By the early 1990s, coin production was highly mechanized, and the mint had developed sophisticated methods to ensure high efficiency. Each year, billions of cents were struck to meet circulation demands, as inflation and consumer habits still required large quantities of low-denomination coins. The 1994 cent is part of this industrial era of coin production, representing the height of mass minting capability at the time. In terms of economic history, the penny had long faced debate. Over its continued relevance, rising metal and production costs had made the coin's manufacture more expensive than its face value, yet public attachment to the Lincoln cent prevented its discontinuation. The 1994 cent continued to circulate widely, despite growing arguments that the denomination had become obsolete for modern commerce. It was an example of tradition persisting even as economic realities changed. From a collector's perspective, the 1994 cent also belongs to an important transitional period in numismatics. During the 1980s and 1990s, the hobby saw a resurgence in public interest, fueled by improved coin grading standards, the expansion of third-party grading services, and the spread of information through numismatic magazines and early online forums. Collectors began to study minute die variations and minting errors with greater precision. This attention to detail gave even modern issues like the 1994 cent a place in serious coin study. In this period, the mint also worked to improve coin striking quality. The use of computerized engraving and die making allowed for more consistent features and sharper details on the Lincoln portrait and the Lincoln memorial design. Although billions of coins were struck, minor differences from one die to another created the possibility of collectible varieties. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 6.5 billion cents, while the Denver Mint added more than 4.5 billion, making the total production surpass 11 billion pieces. In 1994, proof coins from San Francisco were struck in much smaller numbers for collectors, often under 2 million. The 1994 proof cents are notable for their high level of craftsmanship. Each was struck multiple times on specially prepared planchets to produce mirrored fields and frosted devices, creating a striking contrast known as cameo or deep cameo finish. These coins were sold directly to collectors in proof sets and are among the most visually appealing representations of the Lincoln Memorial design. The history of the United States $quarter coin from the year 2020 is a fascinating journey into the world of American numismatics. The year 2020 marked an important continuation of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, a series that began in 2010 and celebrated the natural beauty and historical significance of sites across the nation. Each quarter released under this program featured a unique design on the reverse side, representing a national park or monument, while the obverse continued to display the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan in 1932, based on a bust by Jean-Antoine Houdon. In 2020, the United States Mint released 5 distinct quarters each, highlighting a special site that reflects the cultural, natural, and historical richness of the United States. These coins are part of the final stages of the America the Beautiful series and were eagerly anticipated by collectors and history enthusiasts alike. The first quarter, released in 2020, was the National Park of American Samoa. Quarter issued in February, this design featured a striking image of a Samoan fruit bat mother hanging upside down with her pup, symbolizing the unique wildlife and conservation efforts of the park. It was the first United States coin to depict a fruit bat and served as a reminder of the importance of preserving endangered species. The design, by Richard Masters and sculpted by Phoebe Hemphill, carried deep environmental and cultural meaning, emphasizing the interconnectedness of life in the Pacific Islands. The second quarter of 2020 was dedicated to Weir Farm National Historic Site in Connecticut. Issued in April, Weir Farm is known as the home and studio of the American Impressionist painter Julian Alden Weir and represents the only national park dedicated to American painting. The coin's reverse, designed by Justin Kuntz and sculpted by Phoebe Hemphill featured an artist painting at an easel outside Weir's home, capturing the spirit of creativity and the beauty of artistic inspiration. It symbolized how art and nature intertwine within American heritage. The third quarter of the year 2020 honored Salt River Bay National Historical Park and Ecological Preserve, located in the U.S. Virgin Islands, issued in June. The design by Richard Masters and sculpted by Joseph Mena depicted a red mangrove tree growing in the bay's water. With its roots visible below the surface, this design celebrated the resilience of the ecosystem and the rich cultural history of the Virgin Islands, particularly the early indigenous peoples who inhabited the area. It also served as a visual metaphor for growth, strength, and renewal in the face of challenges. The fourth quarter, released in 2020, represented the Marsh-Billings Rockefeller National Historical Park in Vermont, issued in August. This design by Donna Weaver and sculpted by Michael Gaudioso depicted a young girl planting a tree symbolizing the conservationist spirit and the ongoing stewardship of natural resources. The park itself tells the story of conservation history in America, inspired by the pioneering work of George Perkins Marsh and Frederick Billings. The coin's imagery was a call to care for the environment for future generations, tying deeply into the ideals of sustainability and responsibility. The final quarter of 2020 featured Tallgrass Prairie National Preserve. Located in Kansas, issued in November, the design by Emily Damstra and sculpted by Renata Gordon depicted a regal fritillary butterfly flying above a field of tall grass. It captured the beauty of the prairies and the biodiversity of one of the most endangered ecosystems in North America. The coin served as a tribute to both the landscape and the wildlife that depend on it, reminding Americans of the importance of protecting their natural heritage. All 5 2020 quarters continued the America the Beautiful series, with the same obverse design featuring George Washington, his portrait facing left with inscriptions, "Liberty in God We Trust," and $quarter. The obverse was slightly modified in 2021 to mark the end of the series, but in 2020 it still retained the classic design that had appeared on quarters since 1932, though the minting techniques had evolved to produce sharper details and more refined finishes. The 2020 quarters were struck at 3 major United States mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced coins for circulation, while the San Francisco Mint produced proof and silver-proof versions for collectors. Each mint mark, P, D, or S, carried its own appeal among numismatists. In addition to the regular issues, there were also special coin sets, including uncirculated sets, silver-proof sets, and 5-ounce silver bullion coins, known as America the Beautiful 5-ounce silver coins. These large versions mirrored the quarter designs, but in a grander format that appealed to investors and collectors alike. The year 2020 also held special significance because it marked the 10th anniversary of the America the Beautiful Quarters program. Collectors viewed these coins as part of a legacy that had showcased 56 national parks and sites across all states, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories. The series had not only celebrated American geography, but also strengthened national pride through artistry and education. In the broader context of history, 2020 was a turbulent year marked by the global pandemic, which influenced the minting and distribution of coins across the United States. The U.S. Mint faced production slowdowns and a temporary coin shortage as the economy adjusted to new challenges. This made some 2020 quarters less common in circulation during that period, adding to their intrigue for collectors. Many Americans first noticed these quarters as symbols of resilience and continuity during uncertain times. Collectors value the 2020 quarters not only for their artistry, but also for their historical significance. The combination of environmental themes, artistic heritage, and cultural preservation makes them some of the most meaningful issues of the entire series. Some error coins, such as those with die cracks or misstrikes from the Philadelphia and Denver mints, have become especially sought after over time, further fueling the fascination with these modern coins. In summary, the U.S. quarter-dollar coins of 2020 represent more than just currency. They tell the story of America's natural beauty, its creative spirit, its environmental awareness, and its perseverance during a challenging year through the designs of National Park of American Samoa, Weir Farm, Salt River Bay, Marsh Billings, Rockefeller, and Tallgrass Prairie. The 2020 quarters form a narrative of unity and reverence for both people and planet. Their intricate artwork, their careful production, and their symbolic meaning make them a cherished chapter in the long and proud history of the United States quarter-dollar coin, and as time passes, they will continue to stand as enduring reminders of the values and landscapes that define America. The story of the 2020 United States quarter-dollar coins extends far beyond their designs and mintage. It is a chapter deeply woven into the broader legacy of American coinage art culture and national identity. The 2020 quarters marked one of the final years of the ambitious America the Beautiful Quarters program, which began in 2010 and concluded in 2021. This series was inspired by the earlier success of the 50-state quarters program that ran from 1999 to 2008. A project that transformed how Americans viewed their change by connecting it with history education and regional pride. After the state quarters ended, the America the Beautiful series was introduced to highlight the beauty and significance of national parks and other historic sites across the United States and its territories. The story of the Jefferson nickel 1967 begins during a transformative period in United States coinage, when the nation was still adjusting to significant changes in metallic composition minting policies and public demand for circulating coins. The year 1967 falls right in the middle of a time known as the clad coinage era, which started in 1965 when silver was removed from most U.S. coins and new alloys were introduced to stabilize coin production. This period also carried a special set of regulations affecting mint marks' annual coinage reports and mint processes, which shaped the characteristics of every coin produced, including the 1967 Jefferson nickel. To fully understand the significance of the 1967 nickel, one must first explore the historical environment that shaped its creation, from design to production, and finally to its role in circulation. The Jefferson nickel series itself began in 1938, replacing the long-running Buffalo nickel. The winning design came from artist Felix Schlag, whose portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and the depiction of Monticello on the reverse became iconic American imagery. For decades, the design remained mostly consistent, and by the time 1967 arrived, the Jefferson nickel was already a familiar and widely used coin across the United States. But although the design stayed largely the same, the regulations and minting conditions of the 1960s created a unique backdrop for coins in these years, making 1967 nickels historically interesting, especially for collectors who study production numbers and minting variations. During the mid-1960s, the United States Mint faced a nationwide coin shortage triggered by rapid economic growth and silver hoarding among the public. People feared rising metal prices and began removing silver coins from circulation, which caused the mint to increase production volumes and switch to cheaper metal alloys. As part of the Coinage Act of 1965, the Mint temporarily removed mint marks from all circulating coins. This means that the 1967 Jefferson nickel carries no mint mark, regardless of whether it was actually produced in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, because identifying mint locations was prohibited during those years. This absence of mint marks makes the 1965 through 1967 nickels a distinctive group within the series, and it challenges collectors because there is no way to determine the exact production facility for any specific coin, The 1967 nickel was minted using the standard composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel, which had been in use for the series since its start in 1938. This alloy proved durable and resistant to wear, which contributed to the long life of Jefferson nickels in circulation. The coin weighs 5 grams and measures 21.2 millimeters in diameter with a smooth, plain edge. These specifications remained unchanged through 1967, giving the coin a consistent image and feel even during a time of transition within the mint. The familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse continued to portray him facing left with the inscription, "In God We Trust," to the left, "Liberty to the right," and the year 1967 displayed prominently. On the reverse, Monticello remains central with the inscriptions E Pluribus Unum Monticello 5 cents and United States of America placed around the building, while millions of Jefferson nickels were produced in 1967. The exact number is often grouped with total national production rather than mint-specific totals because the absence of mint marks blurred distinctions between facilities. However, historical records show that overall nickel production in this year was extremely high as the mint worked to meet circulation demands and to stabilize the coin supply after the earlier shortage. As a result, most 1967 nickels are common in circulated condition, but higher-grade examples, especially those preserved in exceptional uncirculated condition, can still attract collector interest. Coins with strong strikes, bright, lustrous surfaces, or clean fields may receive premium attention from grading professionals and registry collectors. Another important historical element of the 1967 Jefferson nickel relates to the mint's efforts to experiment with special strike finishes. From 1965 to 1967, the mint replaced the traditional proof set program with something called special mint sets. These sets featured coins that were struck with higher quality than regular circulation strikes, though they did not reach the level of finish found in true proof coins. For 1967, the special mint set nickel features sharper details, smoother surfaces, and a more refined strike. These coins were produced at the San Francisco Mint, though still without mint marks. The 1967 SMS nickel continues to be of interest to collectors who seek well-preserved examples from this experimental period in mint history. In the broader context of American numismatics, the 1967 Jefferson nickel also reflects the changing philosophy of the U.S. Mint regarding coin production and public access to collector products. Because of the coin shortage, the mint restricted or suspended the sale of proof sets, mint sets, and commemorative items, believing that such programs were distracting from the goal of producing enough coins for everyday commerce. Only when production stabilized did the mint gradually reintroduce collector-targeted items. This political and economic environment adds depth to the story of every coin minted during these transitional years, including the Jefferson nickel. For collectors studying errors and varieties, the 1967 Jefferson nickel provides an intriguing field because the high-speed minting processes of the 1960s sometimes produced minor imperfections. While there are no major cataloged varieties for this date, some 1967 nickels show die cracks. Die breaks off center strikes and minor misalignments that collectors find enjoyable to search for. These small minting quirks offer insight into the pressures the mint faced while producing enormous quantities of coins during the post-shortage recovery period. Even circulated pieces bearing these small anomalies can be interesting historical artifacts. The historical significance of the 1967 nickel extends beyond metal and mechanics. It reflects a nation that was modernizing technologically, while also navigating political and economic challenges. The late 1960s were turbulent years in American history, marked by civil rights movements, space race developments, economic fluctuations, and cultural transformations. Coins of this period became silent witnesses to the daily lives of millions of Americans. The 1967 Jefferson nickel passed through hands at grocery stores, gas stations, barber shops, pharmacies, banks, and street vendors, becoming an everyday touchpoint connecting people to the national economy. As the decades passed, the 1967 Jefferson nickel remained in circulation for many years due to the durability of its composition. Many Americans born in the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s would have handled this coin countless times without thinking about its unique background. Today, however, collectors view this coin with renewed appreciation because it represents a specific chapter in U.S. mint history marked by legislative changes, experimental production methods, and an urgent response to nationwide economic shifts. For this reason, the 1967 nickel stands as more than just a 5-cent coin. It is a symbol of adaptation, innovation, and the enduring continuity of American coinage design. To conclude the story of the Jefferson nickel 1967, in a 2-hour documentary-style narrative, one can highlight its identity as a coin produced during a time of scarcity, reform, and modernization. It maintains the classic artistic design of Thomas Jefferson and Monticello while simultaneously reflecting unique minting policies such as the removal of mint marks and the creation of special mint sets. Its high mintage ensured that it served the American public widely, while its special strike versions and occasional minting anomalies give collectors something to study and appreciate. The 1967 nickel therefore blends history, economics, artistry, and national identity into a single small piece of metal that continues to fascinate numismatists and enthusiasts around the world.